The Been There Done That podcast is brought to you by Excel Strength and Performance. Excel S&P offers online individualized programming for athletes of all levels. They've just recently come out with a new website and it's really good. So let's go check it out. The link in the description below. Oh, sorry. I was just engrossed in this month's book recommendation of the podcast, The Science and Application of High Intensity Interval Training, brought to you by Paul Larson and Martin Boucher. I highly recommend this book and I've integrated it into my own training programs for my athletes. And even the best thing about this book as well is that it comes with 20 different strategies for different sports. I highly recommend this book. Check out the link for this in the description below to purchase your own copy. Hey guys, and welcome to the newest week of the Been There Done That podcast. This week, we're glad to bring you back another video podcast. Unfortunately, last week, we had a bit of technical difficulty with the camera, and I'm really excited for you guys to watch this week's episode. We are joined with Tom Harvie, and he's a WA Institute of Sport hockey scholarship holder, and I'm really glad to sit down and have a chat with him, all things about his performance. We took a deep dive into the world of hockey and how he prepares himself, not just physically, to get the most out of himself on the hockey pitch. Really excited for you to listen and to watch, and on to the podcast. So, thanks Tom for joining me today.
No worries.
Appreciate it, mate. How have you been going? Have you gone good?
Not bad actually. Been pretty flat out. Pre-season started probably start of January, so it's been pretty flat out since then.
Nice.
Just
is that for club and?
Yeah, club. We're supposed to have a junior camp go away on the 28th of Feb, but we had it postponed
again
just because of the Victoria situation. So they postponed it to May.
Is that because Victorians couldn't go to? Is that where it was going to be? The Pingham?
It was in Queensland, so they changed it to Queensland. They could come, but it was the other people who had to quarantine for 14 days because they'd been in contact with people from Victoria. So it was just too much of a headache. So they said
that was meant to happen late last year. That camp was originally meant to happen. It's been postponed twice now.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's annoying.
Yeah, it is.
That's so annoying. So what else has been happening? WAIS has had some changes and stuff. How's that all been
massive changes. So we've got, Steph hasn't started yet, but Steph Andrews is the new head coach of WAIS for hockey.
And there's a bit of a process now of that.
Yeah, so a bit of an initiation sort of process, walk through. I haven't had anything to do with her yet, but pretty excited to see where it goes. And then obviously Chris O's still our head coach, our assistant coach now, but currently running the program with Jed still. And then we've got 2 new S&C coaches. So
nice. And who are they?
We've got Michael Dobbin he's originally from North Queensland Cowboys for the last few years, but worked for the Dockers as well.
Yeah, the Dockers. And then I'm pretty sure he's working as well at Subiaco Footy Club as well. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And then we've got PT as well from Essendon. So,
mate.
Yeah. So he's both of them really good.
Yeah. Top guys.
Yeah, and they're full on, so it's good to be a part of.
A bit of a shake up for you guys.
It is.
And girls, because now the programs are one now, aren't they?
Yeah, run under one sort of body.
Yeah. So you train with the girls now as well?
No. So we still are separate.
Yeah.
We warm up with them.
Yep. Okay.
And then we're split into our separate groups.
That's cool. So what's different? What are the kind of SC coaches brought that's been different previous years and previous coaches?
Big thing was the conditioning side of things more than the strength side. Yeah. Strength side's been pretty similar throughout, but it's the conditioning that's changed. So now we're doing a lot more hockey based, like running, really focusing on that sort of side of things. So a lot of repeat sprint efforts rather than doing your 400 meter efforts. Yeah. So because you don't do that in hockey, you never do it. So
it's a lot of up and back sort of stuff. Are you doing, is it like a in-game base as well? Like you're doing little mini game, small-sided games?
Yeah, so we'll do small games, small contested games, and then we'll move into something like, so we'll do like 10 100 metre sprint efforts or, moving into that sort of stuff straight after the game. That's our break time, and then we have like 30 seconds off, and then we're back into small contested games.
Nice.
Again. So we're fit.
That's nuts.
We haven't touched too much of a hockey stick yet, but we're fit.
Yeah. Well, you haven't. It's been hard because you're not having. Well, really, the club season. That's it. Really, you don't have no camp or anything like that. You're not going to play other states or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult.
It's so hard for especially S&C coaches, to plan our season when we don't have any idea of what's going to be ahead for us. So
and even you can't, the whole idea of planning is that long term what's going to happen, then everything works off the back of what's happening in the long term.
Yeah.
But you're just kind of making it up in 4-week blocks of what's going to happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the difficult part.
There's no international travel scheduled at the moment. I mean, Junior World Cup's still, unsure of whether that's going to go ahead. So that's the reason that the camp's really trying to be pushed to go ahead, so that we can have an opportunity to come together as a group. Yeah,
and to show what you've got. And even for national selectors, have a look again, because obviously they haven't really had
they haven't seen us.
Well, yeah, for Perth guys, it's pretty good because you're here and they're all here, so they might get to see you more often than they would in the eastern states.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of the junior coaches have come across for the Ric Charlesworth Classic. Yeah. That's starting this week, or starts tonight actually.
You playing?
Yeah. So grand final rematches tonight.
Oh, really? Straight off the bat.
Yeah. So.
And that was previously they had that. Was it September last or?
November last year. Yeah.
And they obviously, because there's nothing much going on, they can have to plan another one.
Yeah. So they've changed it so it won't go ahead at the end of the year now. It'll just be pre-season comp.
Oh, okay. So from the next couple of years, they're going to do it over.
So it'll be sort of pre-Classic League starting.
Yeah. So tell us about that. So what's the Ric Charlesworth Classic?
So basically, it's how it started was you're nominated, mainly sort of focusing on under 21s players and Thundersticks.
Yep.
And then they nominated a big group, and then they did a draft, just like the AFL draft. So you have your 4 teams: Suns, Outbacks, Breakers and Highlanders, and then they've just changed. So this year, instead of putting everyone back into the draft, you had to drop 6 players from your team, and then select 6 from the new nominations, or keep those 6 if you wanted to.
What do they do that for?
Well,
change
the teams, and there was a lot more nominations this time around because it's pre-season versus right at the end of the season. A lot of people
more available and more players available to play.
Yeah, they sort of changed it up right because they were originally just going to put everyone back into the draft and start again, but they wanted some continuity between the teams, so they kept 12.
Okay.
Dropped 6.
So that's pretty hard for the guys who got cut. The bottom 6?
I think so. I mean, most of them were the younger ones in the group. Okay. So,
it might be a good opportunity for them to maybe, if they get picked up by another club, they have a better opportunity to play.
Yeah. So I think a couple of them are still training as our emergencies. Yep. So they're in there, but they obviously won't play, but they still pick up a lot from just being around the group.
That's cool. And Ric Charlesworth, he is a pretty big name in WA, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. So he's one of the biggest names in hockey at the moment, probably the most successful sporting coach in Australia.
It's not even just one sport, isn't it?
Across a lot of sports. Yeah, so he's did some work with the Dockers. He's done a lot of coaching sort of seminars, professional development with AFL, rugby league.
And he was an Olympic athlete, gold medal?
Yeah, so he... not gold. They probably would have won gold, but they boycotted 1980, I think, was Moscow.
Really?
Yeah, so it was a boycott 1980.
What was that?
I'm not too... I think I don't actually remember. Yeah.
Probably something to do with something illegal.
Yeah, I think it might have been even... Was the Cold War going on then?
What year?
1980?
Possibly.
Towards the end of it. Yeah, so Soviet Union.
So they didn't... So Australia didn't go to that.
Yeah, Australia didn't go to that one. A few people did, but hockey didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a really good team that year. So, but Australia's only won 1 gold medal in hockey in the men's. The women have won 3 back to back or something.
Really?
Yeah. So
a lot of other goals would have been Commonwealth Game and World Championships up to the other success.
I think when Rick was coaching, we didn't lose a major tournament. So he coached from 2009 to 2014, I think. And he didn't lose pretty much. So he had a very successful run there. Very good team as well.
Do you know, you probably know a bit about him, but what was it that made him such a good, coach, athlete? Was it just...
I think he's an incredibly intelligent person. He's our coach at Wolves at the moment, so our club team. His son plays for us.
So you're coach underneath him?
Yeah.
When his son plays for you?
Yeah, so he's incredibly intelligent and really good at deconstructing people's plans and breaking it apart. So, I mean, he's very flexible as well.
Okay.
But he's also extremely demanding. Like
Yeah.
He doesn't have a filter. Like he just will tell you how it is. So which is tough for some people. I quite like it.
Yeah.
If he's going to give you some feedback, it's straight to your face, and you know what you're doing wrong.
Sometimes that's a better approach, isn't it? Just straight down the line, and because really there's nothing left. Like if you say it, just say it. You know, then it's up to the other person to digest it and take it how they will, type thing. But it's amazing. A lot of the great coaches that they do have that. There's a blend of the two, like able to simplify things easily for people to understand, but also be able to give direct feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is the most important part.
I think, like, you know, even if you look at all the way back to Vince Lombardi, the coach of, you know, the Packers, you know, and obviously Vince Lombardi trophy now is a Super Bowl trophy, but, you know, he was very similar in his approach, very direct, very targeted, but then also was able to delegate towards his players at the same time.
Yeah, that's even when I've been worked with the coaches, we've had success, like team success. And the one thing is always, you know, the expectations set, and if you don't meet it, then you know about it. Then just have the coaches able to simplify things also makes that a bit easier. Like the constant messages that's the same and simple, so that everyone from player 1 to player number on the list, probably 55 on the list, understands and they're able to execute. Yeah. And then the playing group keeps each other accountable on it because everyone knows it's a simple message. Everyone knows what it is.
Yeah, I think standards is very, very important. I mean, you know, a lot of people would say Michael Jordan is an asshole.
Yeah.
But, you know, the standards that he demanded of his teammates was you can't argue with it at the same time. A lot of them wouldn't have liked him, but, you know, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing with Jordan, he held himself to those standards too. So it wasn't like he was having these high standards, but then like just taking like slacking off in training, doing that. The guy trained like a maniac.
I think, and that's very important as well. I think, you know, Rick had, you know, one of the better leaders Australia's had, you know, with Mark Knowles as the captain. He was extremely good.
So Mark Knowles was the captain when Rick was playing.
He was sort of captain towards the end. So 2012, 2014 in that period, and then also, you know, further on up to 2018 Commonwealth Games was his sort of stint as the captain. They were shared.
Mark okay.
They were shared probably 2009, 2012 through a group of leadership group.
Okay,
But yeah, he was definitely a sort of single leader towards the end, and he's, you know, exceptional.
High standards.
Just high standards, but also just very good people person as well. I think he understood how to bring a team together, which is probably where Rick may struggle sometimes.
Okay.
Is bringing the group together culture-wise, but he's also very good at that as well. He recognises that probably as a weakness and has other people to do that.
That's such a hard one too, like having that and then being able to bring everyone together. It's such because you have some of these traits that also might, you know, negate the other ones because you're such, you know, a hard-driven person and everyone else, and then people don't like you, whatever, and then they kind of take a little bit of an offence to it almost.
I think you see that like a really good coach, you know, when you have superstars in your team, like, you know, you have like, so for example, Jamie Dwyer was a part of that team, you know, bringing like someone who is, you know, 5-time world best player, you know, you've got to be able to bring those people together. And you're not going to teach Jamie Dwyer how to play hockey, but you're going to be able to teach him how to play in that team.
Exactly.
Versus, you know, other people who may need a bit of coaching in the hockey industry. Mm-hmm. So
that's crazy. Yeah, that is true. Some people don't even need to be coached, but they just need to be little. Like they bring everyone together, and that's it is an interesting sport. Sport is so diverse, and in what, like, especially team sports, like individual sports, there's a lot of technical and all this sort of stuff, but when you've got a team environment, there's so many moving cogs that it just takes multiple factors to make a successful team, really.
100%. I think, you know, you look at all the superstars, you know, you never, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, you're never going to teach them how to play the game that they've been playing. Yeah. But you've got to be able to teach them how to be a part of your team.
Well, even the same thing at the club I work for at the moment, we had a pretty big recruit come back from AFL to play with us, and now it's just we're looking at how to exploit his, like, pretty much we're talking like he's probably the standout player in the competition at this level, so that now the coach's jobs is to exploit his skill set in the other opposition. So if players can't match up on him, well, then he's going to play in that role. But another week, your matchup might be better for him, like somewhere else. So he's going to play that, and he'll be able to win everything else because really, athleticism wise, he's better than everyone.
Far and away.
Yeah, far above and beyond. Like he's pretty much our version of Dustin Martin, really.
Yeah, pretty
at
much.
our level.
Yeah, I was thinking about that Dustin Martin before I came in here. Actually, like to separate, your superstar from your, your regular, every AFL player is going to be pretty up there, and it's the same across all sports when you reach that top level. But the superstars, it's the delivery under pressure, execute under pressure, and you can't argue with him. He's Mr. September.
So we had a Richmond like a Tiger player come back to us end of last year, and he always say like he doesn't say much, like he's not like a real big guy amongst guys, real quiet and this sort of stuff, doesn't say much, but really, like his leadership comes out on the field. Really, like it's amazing how he can get himself into a position or into the game. Like he might not be having an impact forward, goes into the midfield, like there's immediate impact, and same the other way. It's amazing how he can get himself to the game, and good players find a way to do it, don't they? And there's no really an excuse.
Got to find that bit of motivation for yourself every single time. I mean, there's no excuse to play poorly, I don't think. Like, if people are going to give up their time to come and watch you play, like, they don't expect you to be injured or unwell or sick, They expect to see you play at your best. Yeah.
Have you had a time where you've kind of lost a bit of motivation and had to go about getting yourself back?
Definitely last year, actually, was probably the first time I've really felt like I was lacking motivation, purely just because
everything stopped. And
what were we training for?
Yeah.
It was there's nothing going ahead, so why aren't I just training at club, not really focusing on playing international hockey at that point? And I think a lot of people struggle with that, but I think I found the motivation side of things, like to get back to it, was just trying to find a way to be better every single day. So just, it didn't have to be much, but like, for example, in hockey, it's so technical. So it's not gross motor skills. It's fine. Really fine. So for example, like when I trap the ball, it's in between my feet rather than on the outside of my right foot. So that makes me do an extra touch before I can pass the ball. For me, it was just purely just practicing on trapping on that right foot every single day, just to make sure that I was getting better and better and more consistent at it. Because breaking habits is so hard when it's been such a I've played for 16 years and I've always trapped the ball in the middle of my feet. Do
you find it when you constantly focus on something like that, you want to take it from being so, because when you're practicing that skill is kind of close, so you're doing it in a not high intensity environment, that sort of stuff, but when you start to have it into games, do you find that habits start to creep back in as you start to fatigue off? And it's such a hard...
So fatigue, I think, is the big killer when executing skills. I mean, as soon as you get fatigued, you fall back into old habits, regardless of whether that's trying to carry the ball more or rather than pass it. Your decision making is definitely impacted by how fatigued you are. But I think for me, the thing that I always struggled with, if I'm working on a skill a lot, I'll be just purely thinking about that skill in the game rather than just letting the training take the care of itself. So that's sort of something I focused on this year in particular. As soon as I start playing a game, don't think about what I'm working on.
Let it just come.
Just let it come.
Happen.
Yeah.
The mistake's going to happen in the game anyway, so you can't always be 100%
I think Simon
efficient
Black,
with your skills. So
Simon Black said that. I remember I was watching a pre-game interview in 2009, and they asked him, what more do you have to achieve? And he said, the perfect game. No one's ever going to play it, so you've always got to be able to continue to seek and strive to play that perfect game.
What's that famous quote? Was that aim for the stars and reach the moon? So that's what that all kind of comes down into. Yeah,
so I think that particular, if you're continually trying to find small elements of your game that you're not exactly strong at, you can always find motivation to train.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We should always. Not many people think that way though.
Yeah.
That's where they kind of drop off.
You've got to deconstruct your game.
Exactly.
And you've got to know it as well. Like, I think that's probably the most important part, is knowing your game inside out, back to front, so that then you can take it apart and go, okay, I'm really bad at this, so I'm going to go to training, and that's what I'm going to focus on today.
Even obviously the way you're talking, you obviously do a lot of self-reflecting as well. That's probably another big key component of breaking down your game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking, talking, go back to the coaches, reflect. That's what.
Yeah, you've got to be able to. As soon as you finish, I think this year in particular, and in past years, I've as soon as I finish the game, I write down. Say I set 3 objectives for the game. As soon as I come out of the game and sit in my car, I've got my book there.
Nice.
And I'll write. Did I achieve these?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in particular is something that really helps being able to deconstruct what you're good at and whether you've achieved it and whether you're getting better.
Yeah, that's all athletes should do that, but some people don't. They should do it, but it's funny because some athletes never done anything like that before, but still great.
Yeah,
but some people really have to work hard and do the little fine things that aren't probably aren't the fun, like most fun thing to do, but take the time to do it. I think myself with a bit of the Muay Thai stuff that I've been learning just because I've come from a different kind of martial art and relearning like different techniques and that sort of stuff, and like working with combinations with my hands. I'm always writing down different combos going into the training and then reflect on it after, especially if we do sparring and even saying if I went in with a plan but had to change it because my sparring partner was doing something different or something else opened up that I was able to exploit, I make sure I wrote it down. And it's all about, they talk about a lot in fighting, it's about having the fighting IQ to be able to adapt. You see something that you might have trained for, but then something else happens, but then adapting to that situation.
Yeah.
And I guess that would happen a lot in hockey because different.
I think it's like learning through experience, and like if you don't actually reflect on what you saw in a game or saw in a fight, you're never going to actually pick up the details. For example, Eddie Ockenen's played 366 games for Australia, so highest cap player, and it is a lot. He's probably going to play till he's 60. I don't know.
He's still playing now.
He's still playing now. Yeah, but you watch him at training, and situations where I might make a mistake and try and carry the ball in it sort of like towards the contest, he'll just carry it to space because he's seen that situation, hundreds of times, and that's just like experience. It's just you can't beat it, but you've got to still be able to reflect on it.
That's a big one, isn't it? Reflection. And talking about it, experience, you would have a lot of hockey to watch as well. It's not just you. Yeah. It's your brother.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. We do watch a lot. I think, especially like this year, I was very into my Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan sort of mindset.
Yeah.
So like I've been watching a lot of hockey just purely because you learn so much and you can take elements from people's games. I mean, Mo Förster from Germany is probably one of the greatest players to play centre half and free defender where I play.
Same position, yeah.
Because not purely because he was skillful, but because of how he was able to run the game and manipulate momentum. So, seeing how he does that every time that he steps out there is, you've got to watch him, multiple times. And now Arthur Van Doren from Belgium is probably the best player in the world at the moment. He's very similar in how he runs their team. When he's off, you can see that there's a disconnect. Yeah. But, when he's on the field, he runs the game so well.
Yeah, okay. Is that a bit of so that role you play, a bit of like a leadership, how it comes of you kind of run, you see the game from the back and you see it and you unfold and you kind of work your way back that way?
Yeah, so most of the time now we're sort of playing, when you play full press, free defender is probably more so than centre half, but when you play like a zonal, like soccer, footy does as well, but you sort of run the entire sort of shift and movement as centre half and free defender. So, you're sitting back so you can watch everything unfold before it gets to you and, organising everybody in front of you. So that's how they sort of manipulate the game. So they might fall out when they're pressing.
Yep.
And then, they might full press because they feel like they've got them on the ropes.
Yeah, okay.
So it's all about manipulating pressure to be in your advantage. And then, they might be on top of you guys, so you might compress into the back half and just make them hold the ball but not get anywhere with it and frustrate them.
Hockey's insane with that. Like, there's such a skill element, like you said, as well, but then you've got that press as well, so it's a lot of tactics and then the technical component. It has to, the pressure of the tactics makes the technical fall off because you have to work so hard.
Yeah, and because it's such a, it's not a small space. It's still quite a big space, but the ball moves so fast that you have to understand the game sort of 3, 4, 5 steps in advance of when it's going to happen. So like say the left fullback has it, I know it's going to go to the right fullback and right half if they want to spread it out wide, and then they're going to want to try and get it into the midfield. But like you need to be able to set up so that you can sort of encourage them to do that, so you're ready to be there.
You want to anticipate, you set the trap, play the trap for it.
Especially in zonal. So, you know, you're talking to your midfield as a free defender saying he's coming in, and then you can hit him when he gets the ball.
Communication.
Yeah.
It's key.
Very, very important. And like, you know, there's some of the times the Aussies do footage and they've got their sort of leaders mic'd up, and you can listen to how they're communicating on the field. And Mark Knowles was excellent at that. So he was really good at organising team. Tim Howard is the sort of new free defender with Jeremy Hayward now as well, and both of them are excellent. And then you've got Aaron Zaluski, who's a captain at the moment as well, who's really good at reading the play and being on top of it.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's in depth. You know a lot about it.
I've been surrounded myself by it. Yeah.
So you're surrounded by it so much. How do you set like expectations on yourself and coaches' expectations for you, knowing obviously your dream or where you want to go is to play for Australia? So how do you kind of keep knowing where you are now, keeping expectations in check and not trying to get
ahead of myself? Yeah. I think I actually try and think about it so that I completely ignore what's going on outside of me, like selection, and I try and completely like ignore that side of the game and purely focus on playing. Because once you start thinking about, he wants to see me do this, or he wants to see me change how I'm doing this so that I can get to the next level, you start to play poorly because you forget how you play and you start to try and please everybody. So I think for me, it's purely about, I've been always a very instinctive player. So it's always just trusting my gut on how to play and rather, you know, let my training that I'm doing take care of itself in the game and just purely focus on what I can do in the game rather than thinking about, okay, Colin Batchelor's the Australian coach, wants me to do this. Yeah. But I can't just think about that when I'm playing. You have to, you can't just go out and please other people. You have to be able to just play off instinct and just take things out of your mind. So that's how, you lose where you are when you've got too many things, like too many inputs going in, and you just got to play the flow, like just get in a flow state and just be able to. And I think hockey, and I think this would be very similar across all Olympic sports, but being in hockey, it's very different from footy. So, you know, you have, 3 or 4 people telling you, what they want to see you do. So, for example, I've got my club coach who wants me to do this, and then I've got Chris O'Reilly, who's our WAIS coach, who wants me to do this. And then I've got Batchy if he wants to have some input, not very often. And then we've got our junior programs as well. So our national junior squad coach is going to say, so you've got 4 people, and then obviously my dad's very heavily involved in hockey as well. So he's also going to give me not too much. Like he's more focused on me being a good person rather than playing hockey. So, but like, he might give me something as well. So if you sort of break it down, you've got 5 or 6 people that you're sort of trying to take little bits of information from. But if you can't just sort of switch that part off when you're playing, you're just going to be not going to be able to put it all together.
So that's obviously that's a training kind of thing. When you're in training, you kind of have to go about it and be like, I have to focus on these areas, so and so. But then when it comes to a game, it's kind of the training's got you to a point where you shouldn't have to really worry about that too much.
I think, separating is really important. So like if you go into a game saying, I want to do this, this and this, but if you're thinking about it during the game, you're not going to do it because you'll try and do it too much and it just won't work.
The other way,
Whereas
it goes the other way.
You completely, you write it down before you start. So I write my 3 objectives. This is what I want to do. And then I just go out and play. Usually I actually implement them way more than I would if I was just trying to do them all the time and way more effectively as well.
Yeah, that's a good point because if you get it out on paper, then it's out of your it's out of your mind and out of your consciousness, so it's just a thing that kind of happens because it's out.
Because you can't think clearly when you're just so focused on doing
the 3 things,
minute details. So, for example, one of mine for my whole, probably since 2018, I had a very laconic sort of style of play. So it looked like my body language that I didn't really care, didn't really want to be there, even though I'm extremely competitive. But it just was very relaxed in how I played.
Yeah.
Whereas I had to change that just purely because, there was times where I was a bit slow on, getting back or going forward. I was just a bit too relaxed about things. So for me, like, my number one objective is always, regardless of what the other 2 or 3 are, is body language.
Yeah, okay.
So Mark Knowles, again, is incredible at how fast, he's just sprints back to the mark, for a free hit. He's always there. He's always the first guy set up, and then he organises. So for me, my number one objective is Mark Knowles' body language.
Yeah, right.
So that's what that's the only thing that I take into a game is focusing on that.
Wow.
And the rest just takes care of itself.
Just goes on by itself. So obviously Mark Knowles is one of your kind of heroes in that regard. Do you kind of align your game similar with him, obviously with that body language? There's other components as well?
There are other components, but not a huge amount. I try and, I obviously have people that I talk to about, but I also try and steal elements from everybody's game.
Yeah.
I don't try and align myself with just one player, and I don't try and copy every player that I don't try and copy everything that they do, because then you just become not your own player.
Yeah.
So, I have a very different game style to most people. So I'm very aggressive in how I, play. I'm very forward-thinking, offensive, try and win all the time. Whereas hockey can be sometimes a bit like soccer. You're very controlled in how you build it up. Yeah. Whereas I can sometimes be a bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
So it's finding that balance. But
yeah. Does that ever get you in trouble, that going too aggressive?
Sometimes. There's definitely times where I probably hit passes that aren't there.
Yep.
And that's probably a focus for me, is just, again, finding that balance of when to be aggressive and when to go forward versus when to just say, okay, we don't have the momentum right now. We just need to hold the ball. But yeah, I think Mark Knowles definitely are parts of his game that I really like. So his aerial passing, throwing overheads was excellent. So I definitely took that element and added it to my game. Yeah. Whereas Mo Furster was extremely good at running the game as well, but he's also his carrying the ball is really good. So, he's super strong on the ball, same with Van Doren. Yeah. So I take those elements and add them to my game. But there's not just
bits and pieces.
Yeah, one person that I say I'm going to be exactly like him.
No, because you don't want to be. You need to be a bit of individual. Yeah. Kind of, because you're not built like that person. You obviously haven't had the same experiences as them, so there's always going to be different things that make it different. And the biggest one is being the individual.
Exactly. You've got to be your own player, because I think, Chris said this to me, I don't know, a year or two ago, and he said, you've got to remember that your game got you this far. So, what you were doing until this point is what got you here. So you can't just stop doing all of that and try and do something else. Yeah. So... Because
it wasn't just hockey for you at the start, was it? There was a lot of different sports, and you kind of got recognised late. Was that right?
I was sort of tossing up between a couple of sports. So, I definitely played, being from the country, you play lots of sports. I played cricket, footy, tennis, hockey, and then sort of probably 16... was where I sort of decided that, hockey is the path that I want to go along. Yeah. So I think for me, that was definitely where I sort of struggled to begin with, to find motivation to just focus on one sport. Whereas my brother's always been hockey. That's it. So for me, it was, sort of later on that I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I think Olympic sport was definitely
the big driver.
The seller.
Yeah. Well, gold medals, mate. It's amazing because it's one of the crazy thing about being an Olympian or even an Olympic athlete is that it's a sacrifice of time, and most of the time, if you're not in a big sport that has a big kind of funding, you don't get paid a lot of money to do it, and really, the driver is that gold medal.
Yeah,
that's everyone
I watched. You Can't Ask That on the ABC with going for gold, and there's a big misconception that Olympic gold medalists get paid a lot of money. But Olympic sports, you don't get paid a whole lot of money. I mean, hockey's probably one of the better ones. Yeah. So to be able, it's purely love of the game that gets you there. But obviously the Olympic gold medal, I don't think there's a stage bigger than the Olympic Games.
Yeah. I mean, no. For you got 4 years.
You got 4 years, and then for those 2 weeks, it's probably the only sporting event in the world that everybody watches because it's such a global sport.
Well, it's amazing. Olympics started out like when the ancient times, like Greece, Rome, all that was it was just like a power struggle. Who had the biggest or the strongest people? That's what it was. It just people who was the most athletic, because that's what the whole point of it was about. But we've got the strongest people and we're supreme because we're fitter and stronger and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was like a war.
Yeah,
it's basically war without
a show of power.
Yeah,
really,
without killing anybody. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So I think, that side of just the Olympic Games and
notoriety of being number one.
Yeah, and I think there's a romance to it as well. The Olympic Games, going, you're part of the village.
It's because it's a thing for your country.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm representing my country, and when we took out number one, I was a part of a team that we were the best, and it took us 4 years to do it. That's probably the biggest one, because I said it in the last podcast with Alicia. It's like that in 4 years, there's so much that happens. Like you go and you play for 2 weeks, and you've had 4 years of prep for it, but it hasn't been straight. It's always like there's probably more downs than there is ups, and it's that constant struggle, which we are as people and humans. That I think that's a thing that's within us. Like if it's when we start to struggle, things get better. Like if we get through a struggling stage in our lives, we kind of come out the other end better for it.
Yeah,
that's why if you can succeed after that, that's probably the more reward going through that struggle.
I think the 4 years, it's always on your mind. I haven't been a part of the Kookaburras for an Olympic cycle, but I think they're always thinking 4 years in ahead. They might get injured and they'll be like, first thing that would cross their mind probably if they did a serious injury like an ACL. It's how long have I got? Am I going to be right?
Yeah,
for 2024 or 2021, for example. So,
and it's interesting now how if it goes ahead this year, then it's 3 years. They're still holding the Paris in 2024.
Yeah, so it'll be 3 years, which will be different to what.
That's going to be way different.
Yeah.
Because then obviously squad selections change. There might even guys who might be thinking of, possible retirements or whatever. Might just be 3 years. Can possibly hang on and do whatever, and then hang it up after that.
And that comes down to coaches as well. Like it's become such a tough decision to make. You've got a superstar who's played for Australia for the last 10 years, but wants to hang on for 3 years to play in the Olympics. Is it better to get someone now, or is it better to continue with them and see where they are in 3 years?
Yeah, right. Do you have any word of what's going on that no one knows?
I think at the moment it's going ahead.
Yeah. I still can't believe that crazy rumour got out. It's cancelled. I start because you hear rumblings about it the last couple, just general chat. People just say it's going to get cancelled. But it went everywhere. This rumour just went on wildfire.
Yeah.
And then they actually, I think Alicia was saying, they got a text message saying that don't worry, it's just a rumour.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how must have been a whisper going on, and then it got leaked out, and then that source that leaked it must have been pretty reputable, and then bang, spread.
Yeah.
It's the power of the internet.
Yeah. But I think it'll go ahead. I think if anything's going to go ahead, the Olympics will go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the UFC have laid out a pretty good blueprint in terms of how to kind of make international sports work, because whenever they had international fighters, they just made that bubble in Abu Dhabi, and then they kind of got athletes in a little kind of spots, had them on, they isolated them until they got 2 negative tests, then they flew them into Abu Dhabi, 2 more negative tests there, and then once they got those 2 negatives came back, they allowed it outside of their hotel room, so they were still isolating in there. And then I guess on Olympics, that's a much bigger scale, and obviously you've got different countries that are going to be there, not probably, the language barrier is going to be a big one with and then understanding, and then obviously the cultures as well, and there'll be a big task. So hopefully it does go ahead, and it's all. I
think it'll be very different. So I don't think there'll be any the village will be there, but say a swimmer is only active for the first 2 days, they'll go after the first 2 days. So I think that'll be something that'll be very different. The village is going to be super different to what it normally is. Plus, I also think, if any country was going to have it, aside from obviously Australia with our COVID record at the moment, but Japan is incredibly organised. So for anybody to have it and run it efficiently with a large group of people, the numbers that they deal with every day in Japan, in Tokyo itself.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be able to manage that group of people quite efficiently, I think. So hopefully it goes ahead.
Yeah. Hope so. It'd be good to watch some good sport because everyone gets around the Olympics as well. It's not just...
I think that'll be
a
motivator as well, like on the decision of whether it goes ahead, is because people need a bit of good news.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Olympics provides that highlight and a bit of escape for 2 weeks. You know, one of my friends who I work with, her parents have been in lockdown for 1 year. 365 days they've been in their house, other than to go to groceries and...
365 days? 1 year?
In the UK, yeah. So
they've had three
lockdowns. But they basically haven't been let out of their house for a year. And we were complaining about 5 days in WA. So, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know. That's nuts. I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I've had to get out. And I still can't believe there's that many people still outside of Australia and like you're just trying to still get back in, and it's a massive struggle.
Yeah.
Even like with sports as well, you might need to go international. You know, like essentially like for athletes, if they have to travel to make money, like if you're an international, I don't know, if you're, say, for example, a fighter who needs to go and fight, like, and when he come back, there was a New Zealand fighter, he had to go, he fought twice in the last 12 months, and he's had to quarantine for 4 weeks, like, there, and when he's had to come back for 2 weeks each time. But yeah, he's had a young daughter, and there's that photo that he's inside of like a cage, and then his wife and his young daughter on the other side. It's tough for young people and the family because you got to make money, got to make bread.
Well, you saw that with the cricket with Steve Smith. He hadn't seen his wife in 6 months or something. So yeah, that's tough. It's not easy. So I mean, the bubble is always going to be a challenge, I think.
Yeah. Has that affected how the COVID and all this sort of stuff has affected your studies much, or?
Online was tough.
Online was tough, yeah.
Purely because the university I go to is so face-to-face orientated and practical orientated. So shifting to an online format was challenging.
Yeah. What are you studying again?
Phys ed teaching at Notre Dame.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean the university itself is, attendance is mandatory. Even to lectures, so they take attendance. So it's like...
Can't get away with not going to lectures anymore. That's a shame.
So, but like online, it was very different. Lectures became pre-recorded, tutes on Zoom. It just became
makes everything hard because the temptations of being at home and you've got the couch just there and you've got your bed and like... Oh.
Motivation-wise, that's where I struggled. Not so much with the learning... It was just the motivation to sit down and do it. Yeah,
because, I mean, once you kind of get started in those things, it's easy to get a roll on. But it's the actual starting where it's hard, isn't it?
And when you're at uni and your teachers, your tutors are on your case to get it done, and they keep reminding you, it's easy to stay on top of things. Whereas when you're at home and you click that Zoom meeting off, and particularly because I was at home on the farm, I just go outside and go and do something that was interesting rather than sit at my desk and do assignments and then turned into just a race against the clock with 1 week before it was due. So.
That's we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there.
That's why we have a little chuckle because everyone's had that same experience.
Yeah.
Do you find going down to the farm like a good kind of get away from everything, just kind of turn the brain off? Because obviously you think about so much hockey and you kind of in it, you live it, and to go down the farm just gives you a bit of a break.
Yeah, I think the environment of elite sport is not understood by anybody who's not in it.
Very true. Yeah.
So, it's extremely taxing mentally. So to get away for a period and completely switch off from that environment is so good. And for me to have a place that's close, it's 2 hours to be able to get there and just completely, shut your phone off. Do your
turn your phone off?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I just put it away. I stay in touch with people, but not as much as I would when I'm in Perth. Yeah. And just completely reset. I'm so lucky to be able to have that.
That's awesome. What do you do down there? Just work?
I work for Dad. Yeah. Do some chores around the farm. At the moment, it's pretty busy. We're harvesting grapes at the moment, so
bit of wine.
Yeah, a bit of wine. This rain's not good for it, but it's
no, not this time.
No, not this time.
It's a bit dry.
Want it dry and hot, but it's
We've been into Adelaide much? Gone into their wines? Have you?
No, I haven't. No, Dad has.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Does he have good things to say?
Yeah, he does.
Good.
Yeah, it's pretty good over there. But it's, just because it was so late. I mean, we're supposed to be picking this weekend, but we got 40 mils yesterday.
When I saw videos and photos of all the floods, I think it was at Southwest, maybe?
Yeah,
I think it was.
That's where a farm is. So.
Yeah. All the floods and stuff. I was sitting there. Was it within like a couple of hours? I reckon they almost 20 mils of rain or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so Dad said he had 23 mils in an hour.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean 40.
That's not what you want.
44 mils in.
That's the wrong time to have that much rain. Right?
Yeah, between 8 a.m. and 11. So it was just torrential downpour for a very short period of time, and then that was it. When
you were younger, did you have to do where you work on the farm and like that as well? Yeah. Do you just go like, I'm fed up with it? When you were younger, like it was, why do I have to get up so early?
Yeah, I hated it.
And now you're like, I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I hated it. I hated the vineyard. I hated everything about it, and now I just can't wait to get home.
Because it's like one of those like things you don't realise that when you're younger how much life's going to change. Yeah. And then you realise life's hard. Yeah. And you just want to go back to something simpler.
Yeah, adulting is not fun. No, being an adult is not fun. Whoever said growing up was good is not just a liar. I want nap time and kidney again. That was great.
Oh, that's just a struggle of life, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I was just old man used to have some rental properties, just always used to go paint, do all this sort of stuff for him. He'd be like, it's my school holidays, blah, 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 I don't want to go and do that. And then now when you work and you're just constantly grinding through life, it's like, I wouldn't mind, painting the place. And
doing
it might be simple. And then like, Dad, they're all remodeling back home in Adelaide, and like, he's like, when you come down for Easter, you can help me paint. I'm like, all right.
If I have to. Yeah.
You're killing me.
Nah, it's I think the good thing like now when you go home is there's a bit of freedom to it, whereas
exactly.
It's very different, but I just love going home now. It's such a good break and do something different as well. Like
you don't surf down there as well?
Yeah.
That's where you go down south. Yeah,
try to. I mean, summer's not exactly enjoyable down south with so many tourists, but it's which is good. I mean, it's great for like Dunsborough relies on that as their economy, but for people to go down south, who live there to surf it's very different to what it was.
You don't have any secret spots or anything like that where people don't want to say it on the podcast.
Yeah,
you keep it quiet.
Yeah.
Stupid question. Mate.
Yeah, but it's
you got spots.
Even those though, they're still people like that's where all locals go. So
and then everyone tries to get away from all the tourists.
Yeah, so I mean it's not terrible. I mean most of them are pretty good. Yeah. It's just people in the country are very different to people in the city, I find.
Personality wise.
Not so much personality wise. I mean, obviously a little bit. They're very relaxed usually. Yeah. But just in how they approach life, I think sometimes in the country when see people come down, they still think they're in the city and they just need to relax a little bit.
Oh, really? They take the hustle and bustle with them?
Yeah, they take the hustle and bustle with them. Like Dunsborough city town, like it's just like it's full on. So it's usually it's just you cruise around and then you don't need to drive too fast or anything, and then you when everyone else goes.
So it always happens.
Get in and get out.
Whenever you go on holidays, you sit there and it takes it depends on where you go, Thailand or whatever, or Bali, and like you sit down and you expect someone to come over to you straight away, and it's like a couple of minutes, and you're like, just relax, mate. Like you're on holidays, just sit down. It doesn't always have to be a rush for everything. Yeah, there's time to sit down and relax.
Yeah, and just have a chat. So, I think that's a big difference. But I mean, it's good for the town as well. So I don't have any grudge against.
Would you move back home?
Yeah, in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
As soon as I think,
once you're done.
One day. I don't know.
Retire back home.
Yeah, you just never know, really. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. So
that's the hardest thing because everyone goes, what do you want to do in the next 5 years? Obviously, you have goals and that sort of stuff, but really you can't say because you don't really know if it's anything going to happen.
You never know if it's 100%. So, there's plenty of things that could change. There could be complete cut of funding for some Olympic sports, and then you just have to...
bite the bullet and
bog in and get stuck into uni. Like I've gone part-time this year, but for the first time I was full-time 2 years.
You find that now a lot easier to manage?
Yeah, way better. Yeah. Especially gives me more time to focus on training, rather than just constantly being just inundated with uni.
Yeah, you kind of get back,
and I can recover properly and, give myself time to actually be prepared for training, prepared for games. You're not sitting there at uni and not eating what you should be eating before a training session. You know, you're prepared for training when you get there.
Yeah, so now you take a bit more responsibility. Now you can plan out your day a bit more, and you can plan your nutritional strategies, plan good sleep, and obviously will make you a better athlete.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of it as well, even though it might take you a little bit longer to finish your uni, but
yeah, I mean that's at the moment. You know, you're at the window to be an elite athlete is so small. So, you know, you've got to make the most of it. I think 100%. While I have the opportunity to, especially when I'm trying to push and I'm right there. So many people give up right on that cusp. So
where you're a national junior squad member still at the moment. So how long you got another?
Oh, this is my last year in junior squad. You know, hopefully push into the dev squad at the end of this year. I mean, it's so tough at the moment. If there's no competitions, you can't really get put into anything. So
no, that's what makes it even harder as well.
So
it's hard to know yourself as well if there's no competition.
Yeah, where you sit.
Exactly, because if you're just playing with guys at a club, it's that, you know, you sit at that national development squad, national junior squad, but you're playing with guys at club level who aren't near that. So it's a kind of more or less, no offense to anyone playing, but a little bit of a step down in competition.
Yeah, it's a way smaller pool.
Yeah.
So
and then maybe when you're like that, when you get in that camp environment where that level is higher, you kind of wakes you up and like, oh shit. Like,
I've got to pick my game up here. You don't know what other people are doing.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're sitting, how much they've improved.
Yeah, that's like
developed.
And the thing as well, like you're obviously pretty hard. Well, not so much hard, but you keep yourself in check. Like you have to say you set strong expectations and there's standards that you meet yourself. So to almost not have that situation come up, where you kind of get there and you're like, oh, deer in the headlights.
Yeah, when you don't have a measuring stick, it's pretty hard to find out where you're sitting. So, I mean, but you've just got to trust that you're doing the right things at the moment and just keep pushing yourself every day. But yeah, club it's like, you know, the way I sort of think of it is, you know, when you're in when I was playing in the country, you're a big fish. Then you come to the city and you're not so much anymore because the pool's bigger. And then and then you've got to think about, okay, well, I might be one of the best players in Western Australia, but am I the best player in Australia at the same time? Because, you know, I'm competing against, you know, every other state. And there's only, you know, usually one or two positions available to be put into the next level.
When you phrase it like, am I the best player, or like one of the best players in Australia, it kind of opens up like, wow, there's so many other states, so many other quality talent that's there. Like it's eye-opening and kind of daunting.
It is daunting. A way. Yeah, I mean, there's only 27 athletes in the Australian senior squad for the Kookaburras. You know, there's 27 spots, and then there's only 16 that go to an Olympic Games. So, you know, when you phrase it like that, there's only 16 people every 4 years that get the opportunity to go, whereas there are hundreds of thousands of people playing hockey. So,
exactly.
Whereas, you know...
And probably in their own right could possibly, you know, still play it, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and there's plenty of people that are super talented but just never make it. So,
for whatever reason.
There's a bit of luck involved, as well as, you know, obviously hard work and dedication, but you got to be in the right place, you got to be the right age, and you got to be there at the right time. I mean, you know, Jake was extremely lucky when he debuted at 19. Very young. And
are you the youngest?
He's not the youngest to ever do it, but...
Well, there's someone younger than... Well, been 18.
In the squad at the moment. I mean, Paul Godoyne, I think, debuted at 16. So
what, 16?
Yeah, so...
But he had his licence.
Yeah, so, you know, there's some super... this is a while ago, so, you know, super talented people. But, yeah, 18, 19 is pretty young.
That's young.
I mean, the girls are a bit different. Sometimes they're, you know, 17, 18.
A bit older, a bit quicker than men.
Yeah, so... But, yeah, the men, it's usually 21 to 23 is usually when they start getting a job, but...
And a career in hockey, 30s, late 30s?
As soon as you lose your speed, you're out, pretty much. Yeah, so, I mean, it depends on the person.
Yeah, okay. Obviously.
Eddie, at the moment, I think, is early 30s, 32, 33, so he was debuted at 18. But he could play till he's 40, you know, because he just doesn't get injured. And he's just such a natural mover that he just doesn't put any stress on his body when it doesn't look like it. And then Jamie as well played till he was 36, 37.
So it's an individual kind of...
Yeah, but, you know, other people might only play till they're 31, 32. So
this was a bit of a bracket.
Yeah, it's similar to footy, you know. Dustin Fletcher played till he was, 40? 400?
Tom Harvie as well,
Yeah, so, you know, and then most of them retire around 31, 32, because it's just too hard on their body.
Constant repetitive
Yeah.
nature of the sport.
I mean, there's nothing in elite sport that's good for your body.
No, that's almost the common misconception about elite sport, isn't it? That you actually are
hurting yourself.
It's like, putting it in a nice way, but it's like you're putting your body under that much stress to be an elite performer. That it hurt, like it's not good for your body, really, is it?
It's not good.
There's always that saying: is elite sport healthy? In a way, it's not.
It's not, no, because you're trying, like, it's a bit like,
because you have the precipice of perfect, like getting the most out of your body, that you have to be willing to cross the line of getting hurt.
Yeah, you have to be able to push yourself where most other people aren't willing to go.
Yeah. And that's like not just physical, but it's like mental as well, and so many other aspects that it takes so much toll on the physical. They just break down, and you can't keep going.
The mental side of it is definitely where, you separate the people who make it and people who don't. Yeah. If you can sort of stick it in your head, then you're actually capable of getting there.
Yeah.
Whereas, most people can't actually sort of break that mental barrier. They've got all the physical gifts in the world, but they can't
make it click.
Like, sort of step over that mental hurdle that they have.
Yeah. That's tough.
It's like military. Same, like, it's not to the extent of Navy SEALs or anything at all, but you've got to be able to push yourself like they push themselves.
So that little bit of when the going gets tough, stuff gets going.
Yeah, exactly. Uncommon amongst the uncommon.
Yeah.
Because, every elite athlete is uncommon, but, to be able to be the people that actually get somewhere, you have to be one of the very few among those people. Because there's a lot of elite athletes.
So many elite as well. And it's like you were saying before, when you kind of break down, that's kind of where it's... There's, even with hockey, there's the common injury. You get the groins, you get the hammies, you get all that sort of stuff. And then once you kind of do one, you're more susceptible to do that over and over again. And then if you lose strength in your hammies, there goes your speed. Some people might just not be naturally gifted with speed, but kind of developed it through like strength and power training throughout the years. And then that deteriorates with age as well. So you will lose it by the time you're 30. So it's tough. Elite sport is not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's not. And it's such
you were saying before, like how it's such a common misconception, like that people think it's easy. That's like people who aren't involved in it. Who aren't involved in it kind of take it for granted. They think,
see it as...
How good is it to play sport, mate? Well, mate, you play... And it's... People don't get the fact that every time you go out and play almost is like a performance review. Like you're going... You're putting yourself out there to be judged by so many people who don't even know jack shit about your sport. And then they judge, they criticise, they say things and well... First off, you don't even know what you're talking about. And then, you got all that noise, and then you've got coaches who say all these things. So there's so much pressure, and it plays on you a lot, and people don't realise that. And they don't see what you do in training week as well, so that's that's a whole different story as well.
And they just sort of see it as like you sort of just rock up at training and, you go through the motions, you hit a ball around or you kick a footy around, that's it.
They still think of it as like amateurs, No,
that's not how it is at all.
The dream is when you win gold. Then it's all of that is meant, is done something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah. And then you start again.
And then it's another...
and then it's back to the drawing board. So
another 4 years.
Yeah. I think...
But in those 4 years, you still got, like, you got Com Games, you got World Championships, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's always mini kind of goals, mini hurdles there as well to get over, and there's not just 4 years, but it's good.
So... But the air at the top of the mountain is you're not supposed to dwell there. You've got to descend and then start again. Yeah, so
that's a good point. Got to come down and go back up.
Yeah,
that is because you look at that all the time. All the great sportsmen, once they get to the top, and then if they start at the top for too long, the kind of everyone else kind of supersedes them.
Yeah, you've got to find ways to continually get better. It's, and I think being someone who is extreme, like, when you become someone who's extremely good, it's because you win more than once. People who win just once is not, you don't sort of remember them as being someone who was a superstar. Yeah, regardless of, it's just, you've got to be able to repeat it. Yeah. Look at the USA women's soccer team. Yeah. They just win all the time. They're fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing, like Jordan, multiple time champion. Knowlesy, multiple time. Even like Dustin Martin, no one will be saying the things about Dustin Martin if he only just won one premiership.
No.
He won two, there's been two premierships.
Two Norm Smiths.
Two Norm Smiths, Brownlow, and there's all these he's he's one player in a team.
Yeah.
But that is a great team that has won multiple and has had adult players win top honours in the sport. So
I think at the end of the day, like as much as individual awards in team sport are great, you're measured on whether your team is successful. And you have to be continuously good in order to win. And then to win multiple times, you have to be great. So I think, regardless of whether you win 2, 3 Brownlows, if you don't win a premiership, people are going to be looking at you going, well, what are you doing?
Well, that's the biggest one, Fife.
At the moment, it is, yeah. Can he win?
That's right. Because I think there's no doubt that he's a great footy player.
Yeah.
But can he? He's a captain of a side that has been famously unsuccessful for so long. How can he kind of galvanise a group? That's where his leadership skills come in, like someone like Nosey.
That's where it comes into question, yeah.
So he can have that personable skills and can pull a group together and perform. Because really, at the end of the day, the whole 23 players or 22 players in a side doesn't have to be superstars. They always have to, you're going to have make sure players are, have role players who can play good and this sort of stuff too. So it's not just one player that makes the team. It's the group together.
It's everybody. Yeah, you can have your superstar, but you've got to be able to build the rest of the team around, not just them, but around a plan, and have everyone have their role.
Well, the same, even that with GWS and Gold Coast, they famously got given all of this young talented list.
Superstars.
So many great players now who have gone off. Really, at the start, they had their top players who play, but then they had the whole reserve side that could have made an AFL team.
Yeah.
But yeah, they famously still haven't won. But they made a grand final, but capitulated.
Yeah.
But yeah, still
especially GWS. I mean,
really,
the team was stacked.
That was stacked. Still is stacked.
Yeah, and they need to be able to.
But even when they were even maybe 2 or 3 years into it, they still had a lot of people who left, and now like Devin Smith, he's been at Essendon for the last couple of years, as well, and they've all been great players.
I mean, not many people like Tom Lynch, but he's a bloody good footballer.
No, you're right.
So, and
he's the Suns. That's another thing. You got to make a team that people enjoy being at.
Yeah, but he's successful now. It's but yeah, you've got to be able to create a culture, especially in a team sport, regardless of how talented you may be. If you don't have a good culture and a winning culture, I think that's the hard thing, is developing a winning culture, because learning how to win is hard. I mean, you look at LeBron James, he didn't win until he went to Miami, where Dwayne Wade had already won, and he'd already fostered that winning culture. He learnt to win there.
Yeah,
basically.
That's a good point.
He learnt how to play championship basketball. So it's the same as, winning, club hockey finals. You've got to learn how to do it before you actually get anywhere. It's
funny, people don't understand that when you say learn how to win. Well, don't you just win? No, there's the process of training correctly, having the standards. That's the winning formula. You don't just go out and perform. That's one part of the formula that makes you a great team, a championship winning team, and that culture.
Yeah. Finals is different. It's a completely different ball game. You rip up everything you did in the regular season and you start again.
Everything goes up a gear.
Yeah, everything changes. So to be able to win, and it's the pressure as well. The pressure in finals is nothing like anyone experiences unless they've played in finals.
When we talk about culture as well, being in in a WAIS environment and then institute sport, where you don't really play as a side itself, which is one of the biggest things for me when I went over to coach. Hockey is you don't really have the team because you don't really play together. How does that culture differ to your club sport?
Very different. So, I mean, they're trying to foster a team sort of environment now at WAIS. But the hard thing is the people that we train with at WAIS are our competitors.
Exactly right.
So WAIS is purely designed to get people from the place that they are and get them to the next level.
As an individual scholar.
As an individual scholarship holder, regardless of what sport they're playing. And hockey's a team sport.
Exactly.
But, you look at the people who you are in WAIS with, I'm competing against them to get to the next level. And regardless of whether they're my friends or not, 100%. I want to be the one that's picked. So it's very hard to develop a team environment in that environment because it's so individual based. And I try and look at it as individual based purely because, at the end of the day, I don't play with these guys and they're not a part of my team. They are, and sometimes when we play 21s, AHL, and then it's very different But when I'm at WAIS, I'm purely looking after my best interests because that's the whole point of it.
Exactly.
Is to get me to the next level. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. So I think it's very hard to do that, especially when you're such a, team sport athletes are very different to individual sport athletes because you're so team orientated. You're you want to bring everyone together. You want to create a culture. But at WAIS, if I ask for extra stuff, I don't want the other guy to get extra stuff purely because I asked for it. And then we all do it as a group.
Yeah, you don't want,
So, I want to do that.
It's tough, isn't it? Because there's that's that competition. Like
exactly.
You're competing for your spot above you.
Regardless of whether you may be a better player than them, if I wanted to do extra S&C or, my footwork isn't great, and I want to really work on, my agility and changing that. And then everybody gets an agility program. Well, I'll be like, hang on.
Yeah, it's kind of...
I asked for this. I'm competing against these people.
I took the initiative to ask, and we're just carrying everyone else through, really. Yeah. But then, if they don't really show the initiative to ask for more things or ask how they can be better, then they just feeding them the success really that they should work for, really.
Exactly. So I think that's really hard, especially usually I'm a leader within a group, so it's tough for me to sort of make that distinction with WAIS because I want to help people. I'm extremely competitive. I want to win, but I want them to win as well. But in WAIS, it's very different. Yeah. So, whereas club, I have high standards, and I do demand a lot, and I live it as best I can most of the time. But you have to be able to, I want to win, but at the same time, you have to want everybody else to win, and I do. At club, I want to win a flag, but in order to win a flag, everybody has to win. So to be able to, it's just so different, the culture between club and WAIS. Yeah. So
does that get you in trouble a little bit, like your hard leadership and your hard demand on players?
It definitely when I was younger, how I went about it was very different to how I go about it now. Yeah. And it's also understanding people. So, when you're in the country, it's very different to how you deal with people who I play with now. Yeah. Because I was a young pup in the country. Yeah. I just didn't say anything. Yeah. And I learnt what they did to me as leadership. Yeah. Which was very hard-nosed and if you didn't do something, you got told. Yeah. Whereas you've got to be a little bit more delicate about it with some people, whereas other people, say Jake, for example, my brother, if I give him a rocket or give him a serve, he'll be like, yep, no worries. Yeah. How
do you make the distinction? Do you kind of have to get to know the player?
You got to get to know them. And that's, I think, it'd be the same with footy. Off-field social events are so important to be able to build a good culture within a group. And, that's one of the reasons that, Western Australia is so successful at national tournaments is because usually we have to travel regardless. So we always stay together. So we're staying together in close proximity for 3 weeks, and everybody else is It's like, so say we're playing Victoria. Victorians are probably staying at home, and they're not together. Whereas we spend 24 hours a day with each other.
That is true, isn't it?
And we're able to build such a good culture, and it's the same with international as well. Australia travels together, so it's
there's another part of culture. You live with each other and. Inherently, you get to know each other. And even did you see the Amazon test that the Australian Ashes tour they had on Amazon? It's like a docu-series.
I only saw the end of it. I really want to watch it.
It's actually pretty good. I won't ruin it for you, but it's interesting to see the kind of little because they put a little bit of bromance stuff that kind of happens. They go through each other's rooms and they have little watchable. I don't know if it looks kind of scripted, but. They are sitting around playing cards and they're all joking around and this sort of stuff. But it's kind of good and you kind of forget that at the end of the day you're just kind of guys just having a bit of fun.
Yeah, literally. The spare time is, it's just a bunch of blokes at the end of the day. There's not anything special about them.
That is so true.
The mental side of, being able to push yourself. But there's nothing special about an elite athlete other than, they're just the best at what they do.
Exactly. They just have a skill set someone else might be a good accountant
just like
or
a
something.
CEO, they're the best at what they do. Yeah. So, That's the only difference. They're just regular people who just
and
rock
so
up to
people
work.
put them on such a high pedestal that it's like, oh, they're God.
Yeah.
But like really, it's just a kind of guy.
Well, we don't live in, you know, Marvel universe, you know, we don't have Captain America, we don't have Iron Man,
so
but our sports stars are our heroes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they're our biggest, you know, public figures usually, apart from obviously Elon Musk's and the people who stand out. But, you know, it's our sports stars that are our representation and our, you know, the people who represent us as a people, especially in Australia.
Exactly.
You know, you look at your footy stars, they are the people that we look to.
Yeah, and that's why perhaps the whole Australian public ripped into the Australian side when they had David Warner, Steve Smith, and Cameron Bancroft when they had the sandpaper game. People was ripped because that's just so un-Australian.
And like I think the massive difference between international sport and AFL is that you are representing Australia. Yeah. And when you put on the coat of arms and you put on the colours, you have to represent your country, regardless. And like, you know, representing Australia is about being tough, hard-nosed, and you win. Yeah. Basically, you have to win because that's what we do. Yeah. And it's so much harder for an Australian as well because it's that we have a lower population, so really we don't have that big selection of talent as others like China or someone like America. They've got millions of people. If someone breaks down, they can just pick the next one up. Yeah, and they're still just as good. Exactly right. So, there's always that level there. Yeah, I think that's why gold medals is means so much. Yeah, means so much to us as well, especially as a country. You know, to beat big nations and be the number one. You know, well, that's the underdog story. Exactly, and that's what we've always been. We consider ourselves, even though we're probably not the underdog anymore. You know, we're a powerhouse in sport, but you know, it's just that mentality. You know, we've got to be tough because we're coming in underhanded, and you know, and America. You know, I always think, you know, if AFL was America's game as well as us, we would get demolished. But it's just absolute stars. All that athletic. Their athletic gifts are phenomenal, but at the same time, would they be able to handle it? Because they're so different culturally to Australians. That's right. Well, I was saying that the other day with one of our players, like in terms of how much more they are, like they're so driven by their own confidence. Like they're so, you know, even they're celebrated for being up themselves, really. Yeah. So like, you know. Whereas we have tall poppy. Yeah, exactly. Syndrome. Yeah. Like we see someone, like a lot of Americans in the media that like they will if someone asks them a stupid question, they might just turn their nose and be like, oh, I don't want to talk to you or whatever, and just like walk off. And people are like, oh yeah, he thinks he's really good or whatever. But here, everyone, you got to be so nice and you got to be gentle and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's crazy how different. it is. I mean, because over there's so much competition that like you got to be seen to stand out. You've got to have that confidence. Yeah, well, it's like, you know, Kobe Bryant when he was 18 years old told Shaq to get the rebound if he missed. Like, you know, whereas in Australia, if you did that, he would be ostracised. It's like Nick Kyrgios, for example. Yeah. He's a incredible, like probably one of the most talented tennis players in the world, but he's ostracised in Australia purely because he doesn't act in the way that Australians wants him to act. Exactly. Yeah. And same with basketballs, like Joel Embiid. He's like, I'm the best there is. You know, no one can guard me. And he says that openly in a conference. Like, whereas if an Australian AFL player, like if Dustin Martin was walking around like, I get my 30, I don't care. No one can touch me. Yeah. Like everyone would be like, this guy is a dickhead. Yeah. Like, get rid of him. Have you read the Phil Jackson's 11 Rings? I haven't read it. No. Read that book, man. Yeah. That's amazing. Like just how Phil Jackson had, because obviously he went from the Bulls, like coaching Jordan, all this sort of stuff, and then how we spoke about when he was at the Lakers with Bryant and with Shaq. Just had the difference in dynamic. Yeah, it was amazing. Like just the difference in terms of like how Bryant was more self-driven. By his own ability, whereas Jordan was just like, I'm going, but the team's coming with me. Yeah, just climb on. Yeah, just jump on. Like you know, we're gonna go and we're doing it together. It was just amazing. And then like just certain kind of little situations that happened throughout the course of time. The time period between him and Shaq kind of didn't really get along. Yeah, and the dynamic between those two. And how Phil just had to kind of manipulate it as a coach. It's a really good book. I don't usually read like kind of books like that, but obviously after the Last Dance came out on Netflix, I got that book and I was reading, and I was one of the ones I was like, man, like, I've got 10 minutes, like, I have to go somewhere. Quick read, but I highly recommend that book. I'm reading Tim Grover, you know, the S&C coach for Michael Jordan. Yeah. It's called Relentless at the moment. Oh, I think it has like a swoosh.
a Nike tick on it? Is that one?
I don't know, maybe a different cover, but mine, yeah,
I think I've
mine,
seen that.
I don't know if mine
Relentless.
does, but yeah, he's
It's like a black cover.
yeah, it's a black cover, and he talks about cleaners, so people who like constantly just it's a clean slate every year because they start again, and they like to be a cleaner you have to win repetitively.
Yeah.
And just not once you have to. And he talks about like there's never going to be another Michael Jordan. Like,
no, I don't think.
Just
So that time period he came up.
And he also just grew the game so much.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that book.
But he just talks about like Kobe Bryant's mentality was incredible, but like Michael Jordan just wanted to win everything, and it was just.
It was funny how he took everything so personal.
Yeah, well, he just
just
found anything to get him to that place. Like I mean, you look at Tom Brady's very similar. They both will go to extreme lengths to get them to that motivational place to be able to perform better than everybody else. Like anything.
It's a crazy trait to have. Like, think about it. Like, how do they? Was it developed, or was it kind of something they grew up having in their household?
Yeah,
like,
I reckon you develop it. I mean, Tom Brady's always got that chip on his shoulder about being picked 199 and not being royalty in the NFL.
We had to work hard for it.
Day one, and then Michael Jordan, his brothers would probably, I think he said there's a comment. He's like, if Larry, his brother, was 6'2", he'd be known as Larry Jordan's brother. So that's the difference is you've got to. So I think you develop it over time.
It has to be kind of worked in.
Yeah. If everything's given to you, you're never going to develop that.
No, the hard-nosed attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he famously, when he went to the Bulls, it was real, like not a very well-cultured
cocaine circus, they called
it. That's what they...
Yeah. Yeah. So, and he managed to flip that culture purely because he just demanded such a high standard of himself.
When he was younger as well, I think it was either high school or he didn't get picked for one of his high school teams.
Yeah, he got dropped when he was in his sophomore year of high school from his high school basketball
team. So there's a little bit of struggle there they have to work through.
And he calls them out. I don't know if you've ever watched his Hall of Fame enshrinement speech, but he literally just abuses people for 23 minutes. Just like anybody who like slighted him in his career, he just literally pulls them up and just abuses them. And that's his, his speech, yeah. It's pretty.
What did he say? Just like,
he's just like, Jerry Krause, the general manager, he's like, I don't know who invited him because I sure as hell didn't. And then he talks about like his high school coach for dropping him, and then like he's just like, yeah, well look at me now. Like it's just like. Can
you imagine if someone, whoever gets inducted to the AFL Hall of Fame or like a hockey Hall of Fame, going and saying that?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No. They wouldn't even get heard of. They get cancelled.
Yeah, they'd probably lose their Hall of Fame spot.
They'll lose Hall of Fame spot. Won't be able on the radio or like wherever they're doing their personality gig or anything like that. Mate, see you later.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny really when you watch it. He just gets up there and just.
But this makes it entertainment though.
Yeah.
Like some of it's actually pretty like look at it, it's like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, you look at.
But he's God status, so he can probably do anything.
I mean, he's the man. I mean, I think I was watching a thing the other day on YouTube, and for the last 18 years since he last played his last basketball game, and he's been the number one popular athlete in America since that day. Still. Like every year he's been.
His name comes up all the time.
The most popular athlete in America is Michael Jordan for like 35 years.
There definitely won't be anyone who will be able to replace him.
No,
or no one will be able to overtake him.
No, just
people are maybe Air Jordan, mate. He's on a shoe.
Yeah, maybe in a basketball sense, but never in a public eye sense.
Yeah.
I mean, he influenced the world before there was telephones.
Yeah, able to do it. Yeah. So you can imagine him nowadays, like. Having to go through like social media and Twitter and all that sort of stuff, man, could it break a man? Like, it's broken many people.
I mean, he was done at the end of his career. At the end of The Last Dance, you see him, and that's like a thing in all sport.
Yeah.
If you're a big name, or regardless of what sport it is, or how global it is, it's so wearing to be perfect and clean and Teflon and the best. Every single day, like every time you rock up to training, I've got to be the best here, and I've got to be perfect. I can't I can't say anything that's incorrect. And then it's like his life. I would not envy that life at all. You know, not even being able to go to the shops.
Because everyone
Everyone would mob him. So
it's tough, isn't it?
it's tough. But that's elite sport. I mean, at the end of the day...
the sacrifice as well.
At the end of the day, you know, especially those sports where you get paid the big bucks, that's the sacrifice that you make. And you've got to stop looking... we've probably got to stop looking at sport as, you know, a sport. It's entertainment. It's a business. It's not a...
well, that's what WWE is based off.
Yeah, it's entertainment. All sport is entertainment. That's literally the whole point of it. And it's a business. It's not a, you know, participation or anything like that. It's purely... It's not about being fit. It's not about any of that. It's literally just entertain the masses. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. Well, for amateurs, it's like, I want to get fit to play footy, which is like fair enough. But like when you start going to elite sport, that's why AFL...
You're expected to be fit.
But AFL now, the reason why the rule changes so often in so many years, they're changing the same rule all the time, is that they want to make the game better to watch for entertainment.
Yeah.
Because they know the revenue they're going to get from people watching on TV and all the, you know, people or channels are going to start vying for, pay more money to watch.
Same as Big Bash.
Exactly.
With these power surges and, you know, super overs.
More people, more
else.
eyes to watch, the more money you're going to make, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then that trickles down, more money for the clubs, more money for the players. And
AFL needed to do that. I mean, the game was not fast enough. Even though it's... Like, I love the traditional... Like, I don't reckon they should have... Like, I think, you know, 2-3 years ago, probably 2017, 2016 was probably the peak of, like, AFL, like, how fast it was.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to get there's too many rules now.
Yeah.
And it's breaking down the game. I mean, I still love it, but, you know, there needs to be a point where it's like, this is the game, or we're going to change it completely and play AFLX. You know,
well,
the hard thing with AFL is because the ground is so big. Yeah. Like, it's hard to be...
That's why all the coaches want to congest it and make it and bring everything in tight, because that's how you minimise space. That's how minimise the opposition space.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Congest the field and then
make them kick to a spot that they don't want to.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I think, the biggest one, AFL, they want to stop the congestion and all this sort of stuff. Open it up, but the only way you're going to do that is to stop tackling.
Yeah.
Don't let people tackle, you won't get stoppages.
Yeah.
Then you won't get the big congestion, but they won't do that.
Unless you split it into zones and play like netball. That would be the only way you would split up congestion, but you're still going to have congestion in each zone. You're still going to have a contested ball. So I just don't think...
And there's the coaches will always adapt. Like, it doesn't matter if it's hockey or if it's...
They're going to take advantage.
There's always going to be a coach that adapts to what's happening, and then every other coach is going to follow.
Yeah.
That's just the cycle of life, really.
Yeah, well...
One thing happens and everyone else follows.
I mean, when I was younger, I think I was 10 or 11, you didn't used to be allowed to play on in hockey. So when you got a free hit, you weren't allowed to play on. Whereas they brought that out...
Make it faster.
And now, it's way faster.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, as soon as that came out, there was a manipulation of the rule. So, like, you had to travel 5 yards before someone could tackle you from the other team. So what you would do is you would just knock the ball, like, 10 centimetres, and then someone from your team would run in. Because you had to, inside the final 25... You would have to make one pass before you could enter the circle.
Okay.
That was another rule change at the same time. So what people would do is they just knock it 5 centimetres. No one could touch the ball except someone from the other team. So they just run in and smoke it.
Shit.
So, you know, because it's considered a pass. It's
okay.
Travel.
A little bit.
Even though that, as long as they were 5 yards away when they touch the ball, then it's fine. They can do that. Whereas now they've changed that.
They changed it, yeah.
It has to be a pass of 5 yards before it can enter the circle.
Shit.
So, and then they, you know, you couldn't enter the circle directly, so they changed. So now we do one-touch entries. So we fire it at someone who posts up and makes a lead, and they just deflect it into the circle. And we have set plays so that people are hitting that spot where they're going to deflect it, and then they're just shooting as soon as the ball comes in.
Yeah, right. Do they change rules regularly in hockey, or not so much?
Not so much. There's usually...
Just little tweaks.
I mean, the game is so fast already. It's usually tweaks. I mean, they change... so you never used to be able to trap the ball over your head.
Yep.
Whereas now you can play with your stick above your head.
Okay.
You used to have to trap literally in line with your shoulders.
Okay.
Whereas now I can stick my stick above my head and trap an overhead.
Then bring it down.
Yeah, and bring it down. So that's way, way better.
So really, the rule changes in hockey make the game better.
Make the game better.
Yeah, there's always that stigma in AFL that it's not making it any better.
Yeah, I feel like they reached a point where it was excellent, and then they went
too far
and now they have to go back, but they can't go back. So, I mean, I don't understand this new mark rule. Like
the stand the mark?
Yeah.
The umpire was saying to us, we had an internal trial last night, our umpires were saying, if it's so, you can't move like at all, you just got to stand. Like exactly what it is, stand.
Yeah, stand.
You can't mark the ground because that's moving, you got to stand. But what they said you can do is you can move before they call stand. So if they take a mark and I'm at the back, I can move wherever I want until they say stand. So really, you can kind of let them, if they look like they're going to take the mark, they're leading up and you kind of know you're not going to impact the contest, drop off, but you can kind of manipulate yourself on a 45 and they'll call stand. So they're there and they kind of stand there. So you can kind of give them that, they're down the line kick, but they negate the 45 because that's what that rule's for. So people can kick that 45 and not go long down the line. This is what people were doing on the mark. They were just kind of going off onto the side to stop that 45-degree kick to open up the channel down the line.
Corridor.
The corridor.
So they've already figured out how to beat.
So now you can, but then people, coaches just like to stand on the mark because really, if you're going to waste the 50-metre penalty, it's 50 metres in AFL these days is a lot.
Yeah, it's massive.
Because the ball moves most of the time so slowly, or there's so much contest, and then you give them 50 metres and then boom, everyone's like out.
It's a goal, usually. Especially if you run it up and you're away.
You can't get it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's like a card in hockey. You know, you get a 2-minute green or a 5-minute yellow. There's a massive difference between 2 minutes and 5 minutes. Like 3 minutes.
What do you have to do? What do you have to do to get a red? Was that a red 5 minutes?
Red is you're out.
Yellow is
so green is 2 minutes. Yeah, yellow is 5 to 15. So umpire's discretion.
That's discretion. Oh.
Yeah. So it depends on the offence. Usually it's 5 to begin with, and if there's abuse or something towards the umpire, they upgrade it to 10. 10 minutes, or like yellows.
No, how many yellows have you gone?
I got 2 last year.
Oh, what did you do?
Usually it's poor tackle.
Okay.
But
clipping someone's ankles or something.
Yeah. So I got
but
a 5-minute yellow for that one. Actually, I got a 10 for that. And it was an accident. So came in from the side.
You're just saying it now because you're being recorded.
No, it looked terrible. But I came in from the side. And just got his legs hooked in my stick. And
did he go face over?
Yeah, he went over. So,
and hockey pitches aren't the friendliest things to fall on.
No, they're not unless you fall correctly. But he would have had some turf burn for sure. And then the other one was
abuse.
With 30 seconds to go, and I abused him. Yeah, I did.
The umpire.
Yeah, so got a yellow for that one. But he made the wrong call.
He made the wrong call. Still to this day, mate.
Stand by it.
Stand by it. What do you do? Did he call the foul?
So what happens? So when you're playing the ball around the back, if it doesn't influence the play, and it hits your foot, it's play on. Versus like if it's in the play and it hits your foot, it's like it's a free hit.
Free hit. Yep.
But what he did was we were playing the ball around the back, and it was on our defensive 25, and they were playing half press, so they were 20 metres away, and I passed the ball and it hit the other fullback's foot. And he called a free hit, and I let him have it because it's not the rule. So
you didn't say that nicely though, did you?
No, I didn't.
No.
It started off that way, and then when he kept arguing with me, I told him that it was not the case.
The biggest one is when I don't usually have to say. Coaches usually tell the story of like when a rule or whatever, they screw up a decision or whatever, a rule. Misinterpretation of the rule usually within like the last couple of minutes of the game, and it costs the team a game of the win. And usually the coach would go up to the umpire and be like, you didn't call it the last 10 times or whatever, and the ref usually goes, we're not talking about the other 10 times, we're talking about this one. And it's like, well, you can't win that conversation after that. The umpire. But no, you never argue with the umpire because they're always right.
Exactly. There's no point. They're never going to change their decision. I think sometimes they should take the player's opinion a bit more seriously, like especially if you talk to them after the game versus...
Yeah, exactly right.
I mean, they've got to be able to look and see where they went wrong as well, otherwise they're not going to get any better. But I'm totally okay with umpires making mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. I make mistakes, plenty of mistakes on the hockey field. So it's, it's not like I'm totally fine with them making lots of errors.
Yeah.
but all I seek is consistency. So if you're going to blow a decision, even whether that's right or wrong, you have to blow that every time. If you didn't see it, fine. But like if you blow a call and that's how you've interpreted that situation, you have to blow that situation the same for the rest of the game. Yeah, you can change it the next game, but it's got to be the same every time. Yeah. So if they make a bad tackle and they get a warning, and then someone from our team or their team does the same thing and then they get a yellow, where's the consistency in that? So you have to make...
Yeah, you can't
just chop and change. So that's, I'm all for them making mistakes. Like, I don't have any problem with that because it's inevitable.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes.
And the game moves so fast that, like, I don't umpire, so I can't talk.
Yeah.
But, I read the rule book. So I know the rules.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think that's another part of elite sport. You have to understand the game.
Intimate understanding of the game, don't you?
Yeah. So, but yeah, they're never going to be wrong on field. So there's no point and there's no time either to argue. But the good thing about footy and basketball and stuff, you can't get sent off. So, whereas hockey, as soon as you open your mouth, there's a chance that you can get sent. So
why is that? Why is hockey? Has that happened? There's been fights or something in the past. They've had to sin bin people before.
No, I don't know. Just is the case that abuse is not allowed, not tolerated.
That's the same with that. Like you get like suspended and stuff AFL, but they don't sin bin you. It's amazing how some sports have that rule. Like you're out.
There's times like in the past where you could get away with assault on the AFL footy field and you could smack someone. And
I think it was until someone hit the umpire. I think that's when it all changed.
Yeah, but you can literally before they got the jumper punch rule in, you could literally just punch someone in the face if you had their fist of jersey. You'd probably get a week if you're lucky. Yeah. If you're unlucky, really.
Man, it's such a blue collar sport.
Yeah, but if you did that off the field, this is where some AFL players land themselves in trouble. Is they think they're still playing footy and they smack someone in a pub and it's not allowed. So, that's the.
Even all the coaches always say that they bring it back to when they used to play and they're like, back in the day, you head over the ball, like you just get the free kick, but now you don't. Like you got to make sure don't get hurt because don't put your head over the ball because if you're going to get hurt, you're not playing for a couple of weeks. And then the other guy's more likely to get a week suspension. Yeah, really as well. So it's hard, especially concussions as well. Yeah, pretty lucky in hockey unless you get hit in the head with the ball.
I think
which actually happens more regularly than people might think. Well, you more get the back of the stick.
Glancing blow, yeah. I think the thing with hockey, with physical there's a lot of physical contact in hockey, like body work and using your body to manipulate space and everything else. But it's if you get hit when you're not expecting it, like say you get a bump on the side, you're going at such speed that you just eat it. Whereas footy, you're braced always for impact. Whereas hockey, you just get smacked off balance and you're just like, well, this is going to hurt, every time. So,
being able to work with you guys in hockey and that sort of stuff is kind of a bit more of an intimate understanding of everything because going into it, you take the SSC performance coach aspect of being like, okay, I need speed, agility, all this sort of stuff. But then there's that massive technical component of the ball and the stick. Yeah. And even when I was learning that, the kind of the fine motor detail, picking the stick and jigging it around. That's I was like, wow, this is actually... And then I've got to rotate, spin and hit the ball as well. Yeah. And still be able to be in control of the stick. That's another different story altogether, isn't it?
It's a very hard skill to master. And, hockey players make it look quite simple.
They do.
So,
100%.
It's difficult. And I think there's a lot of control that goes into it, but it's like tennis. I think, you play from a young age, you develop those skills. I think it's a great sport for young people because they develop their motor skills so well because you have to use an implement that's outside of your body. It's not gross motor skills, it's fine motor skills away from your body.
Did you find playing lots of other different sports as well, being when you were younger, helped you with hockey as well?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So footy body work, you manipulating space to your advantage so you have space to move into. And then, cricket, hand-eye coordination, striking, trapping is very similar in hockey. In cricket, you don't miss traps. Tennis, again, implement. So
you got a lot of rotation. Yeah.
Basketball was massive. So
really,
basketball defense is very similar to hockey defense.
Zone
How
structures.
we move as well. So zonal understand. So soccer as well. I don't play soccer, but you watch Barcelona and how they move the ball and shift it, and then also how they press is very similar to hockey. But basketball one-on-one defending is very transferable to hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum was a basketballer, so she's always been telling me, get close.
Yeah.
Keep your feet on 45, and shifting so that you manipulate them. You've got to think of a defensive, like when you're in a defensive situation, you're playing against them, that you're in control versus them in control.
Yeah.
So you've got to manipulate them, push them left, push them to the baseline, push them to the sideline, and then I can make a tackle. Similar with basketball, you push them to the sideline or you push them to the baseline, and then you can make a steal. Because they don't have anywhere else to go. So, and then it's also footwork as well. So the footwork in basketball is very similar to hockey.
Wow.
How fast your feet have to move.
That's why it's so important for kids just to do so many different. Don't get early specialisation. It makes them it's a detriment to a lot of young athletes. Just you don't pick up other things that come into the sport. Yeah,
definitely. And so many things are transferable. I mean, surfing, for example, is so balance. Balance while moving, and in an unpredictable environment like on a wave,
manipulation,
where it's changing constantly. To be able to manipulate your center of gravity to suit where you're sitting on the wave versus when you're running is very similar. Like, so if you get knocked off balance and you gotta be able to, when you're running, to be able to adjust to that situation is very transferable.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Do you have anyone you want to shout out before we turn this off?
No shout outs.
I
mean, it's Jake's birthday today. So
is it?
Happy 23rd, you big
Hopefully he's listening.
Oh, he better be.
Nice, mate. Got anything else coming up? You've got obviously Ric Charlesworth tonight.
Ric Charlesworth. Anybody who wants to come down, I mean, we're gold coin donation all goes to telethon at the moment. So if anybody wants to come down and make a donation, so play Friday, Monday, Thursday, and then Saturday, Sunday next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'll probably put the podcast out next week.
Yeah.
So I'll link all the stuff in below.
Yeah. So Monday night and Thursday night, get down, make a donation.
When does club season start?
Club season starts end of March.
Okay.
So, if anyone wants to get down, it's usually free entry. So,
awesome.
Come on down.
Go Wolves.
Yeah, go Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack.
The premiership year, hopefully.
And hopefully the national junior squad gets up, hopefully in May.
Yep, hopefully.
Awesome.
I think we might be going Darwin. So
Darwin?
Yeah, because Kookaburra is going to go there for heat training for Tokyo.
Okay, so then they'll ship it over there.
Yeah.
Nice, that'd be cool.
All right,
mate. Enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for having me.
Awesome, mate. Cheers.